Today we're having the Shir Dach Yomi and Torah Or Daf Tes Amud Daled. We're in the middle of the Maimer, which is the Bir and Maimer Rabim, explaining how the Tefillah of Balei Asakim can be higher than Yeshiva, how somebody that's involved in the physical world and has to worry about making money can come to have a deeper love for Hashem than if he wouldn't be worried about physical things. So today we're going to continue explaining the idea that the Nefesh Halakis comes from Tikkun and the Nefesh Bahamis comes from Taihu. That because the godly soul comes from the world of Atzilus, which is called Tikkun, where the light is limited and everything is able to work together, and the Nefesh Bahamis comes from Taihu, where the light is infinite, and that's why it fell apart, because no one's able to handle it. And so because the Nefesh Bahamis comes from Taihu, comes from this higher place where the light is infinite, so the person, by working with the Nefesh Bahamis and being involved in the physical things which come from Taihu, is able to achieve this infinite love for Hashem, this much deeper love for Hashem. So that's what we're in the middle of explaining. We'll start from Tes Amud Gimel, the bottom, the second from the last line. V'zeu sharash ein halam miskayim ki mizeh in yachol the dias tikkun olam tzarich tikkun olam tzarich lias bechinas tikkun. If there would only be Taihu, if the light would be infinite, and then no one is able to handle it, so then the world couldn't exist. So therefore Hashem made tikkun. Hainu bechinas kavin is kalas amidus. So what does that mean? That's kavin, where you have everything working together. The difference between a line and dots is that all the dots are separated. It's called nakudos. Whereas a line, all the dots are connected. So that's the idea that in tikkun, it's kavin. Everything is connected with each other, because since the light is limited, so they're able to have room for each other. Hainu bechinas kavin is kalas amidus zeh v'hu bechinas ribuy kelim umir ha'or, which is called a lot of kelim, a lot of ability to receive, but not so much light. The light is only enough for what you need to receive. That the life doesn't come so powerfully, an infinite amount of life. It only comes in a way which is called chesed, which normally means kindness, but here it means bekrius. It comes cold, it comes, everybody is able to receive. Not only some people get an infinite, but everybody is able to receive what they need. And because of the system of tikkun, where the light is not infinite, so everybody's able to work together. So that's how you have that chesed and gevura could come together. You could have kindness and severity at the same time. Like it says in Pirkei Avos, that there are 10 generations between Noach and Abraham, and they all were doing not nice things, at least to some extent. And then Abraham Avinu, he received the reward of all of them. He was able to elevate the avodah of all the previous 10 generations. So that means that Hashem was very patient. He waited 1,000 years or whatever it is. He waited a long time for people to put their act together. So even though they were not acting properly, Hashem was still nice to them. That's called iskalulus. So because this aspect isn't coming so powerfully, it's coming in limitation. So therefore, it's able to have room for someone else, and able to be patient and wait for the other person to get their act together, instead of kicking him out the door because he's the first time he does something wrong. And in fact, you could have two exact opposite things at the same time. Shaloi ha'isim brias ha'ilam shakasav ki mali kavod Hashem es beis Hashem sheba ha'ish milamayla haina b'chenas gili hashachina lamata nimsa shahi ha'simcha rabba moed val oisa perek nemar ki al api val chamasi ha'isali ha'ir hazais lemin ha'yim asher banu oisa mima shakach bas parachulu. So we find when Shlomo Melech built the Beis HaMikdash, that was the greatest simcha that was ever in the time of the history of the world, that there was a Gili Elokus Mamish in the Beis HaMikdash, and Shlomo Melech said Shir HaShirim, which is a very great Gili Elokus, which is called Hashem Kedishim. Shir HaShirim is Kodesh HaKadoshim. So it is an amazing Gili Elokus when they made the Chanukah Sabayis, And yet, in that very same time, when they built the Beis Hamikdash, Hashem said that I was always mad at the Yidden. From the day that they built the Beis Hamikdash, I was very mad. Why was Hashem mad when they built the Beis Hamikdash? Because Shlomo Melech married the daughter of Paro, in order that there should be, you should be able to work together with Egypt, because everyone has to be at peace in order to build the Beis Hamikdash. So he said, if I marry the daughter of Paro, then Paro will be nice to me, and we won't get into fights, because he'll be my father-in-law, so he'll have to be nice to me. So Hashem was very mad that he married the daughter of Paro. So at the same time, Hashem was very, very happy. There's a Gilul Kos Mamish in the Beis Hamikdash, and at the same time, it says Hashem was mad. How is it possible? Nimtza shahayu beis havcham yachad beis uzman echad v'hainu edei sheshitaf midas rachamim v'nas alam hatikun yochalios hiskal samidas zeh bazeh shemeach hashen amida v'skalusa halich bribi v'tagburasor im kein akli haisa yichoyla l'achal gam beis habechinas yachad. So the fact that both opposite attributes of being happy and being upset could be at the same time is because Hashem shitif midas rachamim. Hashem said that it's not going to be only one way. It's going to be rachamim. There's going to be kindness and severity. There's going to be iskalus, which that's called the olam hatikun. That since each one isn't infinite, there's not infinite simcha and not infinite anger. It's limit how much anger and how much simcha. So even though it was a very great simcha, but it wasn't infinite, and the anger also wasn't infinite. So therefore they're able to be together at the same time. So the person's neshama comes from Atzilus, which that's the world of Tikkun. That's where Hashem's light is revealed, and all the creatures that exist in that world receive that light according to their capacity. So that's where the neshama comes from, in the world of Tikkun, where everything is limited to how much it can receive. And the revelation is according to the recipients. Whereas the Nefesh Hamis comes from Olam HaTayhu, Mash'en Kein HaMalachim Shashim Mechanas HaMatayu Machane Michal Machane Gavil Kalecha Kam Mefnei Atzmai. So first Alder explains that the Malachim, they coming from the Olam HaTayhu, and the Nefesh Hamis comes from the Malachim. The Nefesh Elokis doesn't come from Malachim, it comes from Atzilus. It comes from Chachma Atzilus and Pnimis Kingdom. It comes from Olam HaTikun, from Atzilus. Whereas the Nefesh of Hamis is nishtalshel from the Malachai Asharis, which the Malachai Asharis are coming nishtalshel from Taihu. So the Malachim, they're from Olam HaTaihu, which that's why they're all very separate from each other. That the Malachim, that their idea is to love, to have infinite love, and the Malachim, that their idea is fear, they have infinite fear, because they're coming from Taihu, where everything has to be infinite, everything has to be crazy. Machane Michal Hurak Bechenes Ava Bitzeg Buras V'Hiskabris Moed Machane Gavil Hurak Bechenes Yir B'Hiskabris Rav Sarshal Mayim Sarshal Eish V'Mizen Nimshach Bechenes Merkava Pnei Aryal Yamin Pnei Shor V'Chulu. So that's why the Malachim are called, the Merkava is coming from these Malachim, which that's called Pnei Arye and Pnei Shor, which means the source of the animals in this world is from the Malachim, and the Malachim, the source is from Taihu, which means that all the animals and the Nefesh Bahamis are coming from Taihu. So it says in the Gemara that there's three partners in the creation of a person. There's the Father, the Mother, and Hashem. And the Neshama comes from Hashem. What does that mean? It means that the Neshama, the Nefesh Elokis, comes from Atzilus. Whereas the Nefesh Bahamis is nishtalshel from the Malachim, and it's coming through the souls, the Nefesh Bahamis and Nefesh HaSichlis of the parents. That's where the Nefesh Bahamis and Nefesh HaSichlis of the child is coming from. But it's coming from the Malachai Asharis, which is coming from Taihu. That's where that aspect of the person is coming from. Whereas all the animals and the birds are coming from the Pnei Arye, Pnei Shor, Pnei Nasher, from the Malachim, which is the source of those animals and creatures. And the Nefesh HaSichlis of the person comes from the Pnei Adam, which is in the Merkava. And so from the Merkava, that's where the Nefesh HaBahamis and Nefesh HaSichlis are coming from. And both of them are coming from Olam HaTaihu. במקור מאילם התוהו, ולזה נאמר על האדם אחר וקדם צרטני, שבצד בכנס התיקון בשטלשלס, בכנס אדם הוא במדרגה גבוה יוסר. So it says in the pasuk, Adam achor v'kedem sartani. You made me the first and the last. What does that mean, the first and last? It means that a person has in himself two aspects. His nefesh alakis comes from Atzilus, and his nefesh Bahamis comes ultimately from Taihu, but it descended lower. So when it says achor v'kedem sartani, the first and the last, it's referring to the order of how Hashem made Seder Shtalshlis, that the higher thing comes lower, and so the first thing, which is Taihu, comes at the end, comes at the lowest level, which that's the Nefesh Bahamis, and the thing which has a lower source, which that's the Nefesh Elkis, the way that it's in Atzilus, comes higher, comes to be a person. A person is higher than an animal, even though in their source, the source of the animal is higher than the source of the person. And that's the idea of Achar v'Kedem Sartani. Shebechinas abehemus nafel mata moed mashenkin v'kram heim madriga v'yoser sheim b'mechinas amatil. Lefnei melach melech chulu kenoida, that the animals, they fell down to be much lower than people, even though in their source they're from Olam HaTohu, from the world of infinite light, which is much higher than Olam HaTikun, where the people are coming from. V'lazois ha'ava haba mitzah nefesh b'hamis hu l'mayla mayla bechinas b'chol meidecha she'l'mayla meha kli. And therefore, the love that a person has for Hashem, which is coming from its nefesh habahamis, is much greater than the nefesh elokis from itself. This love, which comes from through your nefesh habahamis, is called b'chol ma'idecha, with all your might, with this infinite love for Hashem. Because your nefesh habahamis comes from Taihu, and there the love for Hashem is infinite. So when the Nefesh Elokis works together with the Nefesh Bahamis, he can also connect and tap into that infinite love for Hashem. So the Nefesh Bahamis, it comes from Taihu, but through Shiras HaKelim, because like we said, since the light is infinite, so no one can handle it, so it broke apart. And it came down to a lower level than a person, than the Nefesh Elokis. But when the Nefesh Elokis is mevar the Nefesh Bahamis, when he elevates the Nefesh Bahamis and teaches him about Hashem, and shows him how his source is from Taihu, how his source is also from Hashem, so then he reveals in the Nefesh Bahamis his infinite love, and then the Nefesh Elokis can also receive from that infinite love. So the Nefesh the author brings a mashal, he says, or an example, he says, when a person eats meat, it makes you smarter. And that's what a Tana said, or an Amora said, that I couldn't explain to you, this halacha, which is very complicated because I didn't eat any meat, and so I couldn't, it was too hard to figure out, because the meat would give me the power to figure it out. So the chora, what's the pshat? How is a cow is not as smart as a person? So how would by eating a cow make you smart enough to explain an Inyan in Gemara? Elamai, because the cow itself is lower than a person, but the source of the cow, which is from Taihu, is higher than a person. And that's why you can become smarter by eating the cow.
That's why we don't eat people.
That's right. That's why. No, there's one reason. You can't eat people because the Torah says not to eat people. But yeah. We mentioned previously a few shiurim ago, in the middle of the original Maimar Rabim, that there's Alter Rebbe is actually explaining two ideas of how you come to this greater love. One is that the source of the Nefesh Bahamis is from Taihu, and one is that the fact that you're in a place of darkness that pushes you to run very fast towards Hashem. That's like the idea of Baal Tshuva, that because he did these Averis, so he's running away from all those bad things. So he's running very, very fast to Hashem. The Minakatze Lakatze, from the place of extreme darkness and being very far from Hashem, so he's running with all his might to come close to Hashem, much more than a tzaddik who just goes gradually. So So this is called Yisron Ha'or Mitoich HaChoshech. And this is an additional reason and explanation of how you come to this infinite love by being in this world and dealing with the nefesh of Hamas and by worrying about making money. You come to a greater love because since you're in a place of darkness where you're thinking about lowly things, physical things, and you realize how far this is from the essence of Hashem, and that really I'm a Yid, and all these things are meaningless compared to what I really connect to, that I connect to Hashem's essence, that from the extreme of the being in the physical world, you come to the extreme love of realizing that the only thing you care about is Hashem Himself. In Kabbalah, this advantage of the love that you come to by being in this world is called the advantage of light, that when it's coming from a place of darkness.
Right.
When a person thinks in davening, he thinks about the fact that all day what's he thinking about? Making money and having physical food and physical things. And where are the physical things coming from? They're coming from the lowest level of ruchnius. They're even lower than the lowest level of ruchnius. That their whole life comes only from the mazalus, from the life, the way it's coming through the constellations and from the malachim and the higher malachim. So it's infinitely removed from the source of the physical things, which is only malchus of Atzilus, which is only how Hashem is a king over the world. But it's still infinitely removed from the essence of Hashem, from the real truth of Hashem. So all day long he's thinking about the lowest possible level of existence, about the physical existence. And Hashem Himself is infinitely higher than that. And that's where he really connects to. Says in the Gemara, Rabbi Akiva, he saw a Roman city and everybody was laughing and very happy. They're having a big party. And so the people with him were crying and he was laughing. So they asked him, why are you laughing? He said, if these people, that they're so bad and still they have so much enjoyment, so the people that they do what Hashem wants, imagine how much enjoyment they're going to have when Mashiach comes, when they'll be revealed what's really going on. So what does that mean? It means that all the enjoyment a person can have in this physical world is like nothing whatsoever compared to the enjoyment that you have from connecting to Hashem, the enjoyment in Elokos, and in Elokos, the enjoyment connecting to Hashem's essence, which this is the infinite enjoyment, the infinite pleasure and greatness that a person could ever have. Shesham hu hatainu gadin kates, that there the pleasure is infinite, the pleasure, infinite pleasure of connecting to Hashem Himself. Like it says, only a glory of Hashem, only a ray of light from Hashem is in the earth and on the heaven, in the created worlds and encompassing the worlds. Only a revelation of Hashem is what's giving life and creating all the different worlds. Whereas the Yidden, Am Karoiva, are close to Him, they connect to Hashem's essence higher than all the revelations that He has that is creating all the worlds. So when he thinks about all this, how extreme the situation is, that he's worrying all day about physical things, which is the lowest level of existence, and his neshama connects to the essence of Hashem, and that's where he really belongs, and that's what he really cares about, is Hashem's essence. That Hashem is infinitely higher than all the created worlds. Even the highest spiritual worlds is infinitely removed from Hashem's essence. So when he realizes this extreme comparison, mizet is life nafshe bis gabrus bechili yater b'tshuka v'chafitz ledovka b'yisberchu k'mashkasav mili v'shmayim imchalei chafatz tichulu. From there, a person will get a very strong love for Hashem, and he'll want only to connect to Hashem Himself. Like it says that I don't want anything on heaven or on earth, only Hashem Himself. So now the Alter will explain how you see this in the brachas on a mitzvah. This concept that a Yid connects to the essence of Hashem, which is much higher than all the created worlds. This is what the meaning, it says, we say, blessed are you Hashem, who is the king of the world, that he connected us to him with his mitzvahs. Shemash nishpa v'nimshach lamata l'yismal v'siv v'bechenas melechai l'malchus b'kol mashallah. Everything that's being created in this world and in all the worlds is only from Hashem, that He's king over them. It's only from Hashem, a limited aspect of Hashem's revelation, that He's the king over them. That's the only way that they exist. In case so that's the created worlds. They're only from Hashem being Melech Olam. But us, Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvaysav. The Alter Rebbe says that what's Asher means Tainuk. That when Leah called her son Asher, she said, Be'asheri ki yishiruni, that Hashem made me very happy, very fortunate. And so the greatest fortune and happiness a person could have is from connecting to Hashem and to experience the enjoyment and pleasure that Hashem has in us, which has called Shashu HaMelech Be'atzmusai, that Hashem essential pleasure and enjoyment is in our Torah mitzvahs, and we are able to experience that when we do the Torah and the mitzvahs. So this essential pleasure that Hashem has, that we're able to feel, is through the mitzvahs. That through the mitzvahs, that's how we connect to the essential pleasure and enjoyment of Hashem. Like when you put on a talis, that's one of the mitzvahs, especially the idea of talis, which is a makif that encompasses the whole person. It's showing on a very deep and encompassing level of enjoyment, a very deep level of enjoyment that Hashem has in us. But really, every mitzvah is the same thing, that it's essential pleasure that Hashem has in us. And so this infinite pleasure and connection you have with Hashem, this is only through the Torah and the mitzvahs that you do in this world. So that's why there's two things. There's the idea of davening and there's the idea of mitzvahs. Davening, you're able to realize how much you care about Hashem Himself and how much the contrast between the physical things and connecting to Hashem. But how do you make this connection is through the mitzvahs, which in the mitzvahs is Hashem's infinite pleasure, and you're able to experience and tap into that when you do the mitzvahs.